Was this a statement win for the West Virginia Mountaineers, or were they lucky to hold on and win the game? We're going to talk about it in this post-game live edition of Couz's Corner. I'm here to serve you up another top shelf show tonight or today, hopefully. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Thanks to those of you who are already in the chat. Thanks to those of you who are watching over on Twitter/X. We appreciate the support here on the show. Before I get into the show and give you my thoughts on the game, let's give a quick shout out to my channel sponsor. One of my channel sponsors, Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner. Also want to thank my other sponsor, BetUS Online Sports Book and Casino. I'll be back in about 40 seconds. Since 1931, the attorneys at Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. Thank you for your patience and hanging in there so I can give a shout out to Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, your personal injury and medical malpractice attorneys in the state of West Virginia. They are also licensed in Virginia if you live in Virginia. Now, let's talk about the game. First thing we're going to do is look at the stats for both teams, team stats, and I'll talk about some key individual performances for West Virginia, look at some of your key stats there. And then I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on the game itself. Then I'll give you my overall thoughts on, the program, what this game means, if anything, for the program and for Neil Brown personally. So let's go ahead and do a quick screen share here. Look at these stats. See if I can get these to enlarge any, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, let's just roll with it. What we have is, let me see. Let's just roll with it for now. Maybe that helps. All right. When you look at the team stats, that's what I want to look at first. We'll get to the individual stats in a minute. We look at the team stats, first downs, look at the first down difference. Cincinnati, 24-9. Okay. Third down efficiency, 7 for 16. Again, West Virginia's third down defense struggled. West Virginia's third down offense, not so great. 3 for 11. They were 0 for 1 on fourth down, were both teams. Total yards, 438 for Cincinnati. 436, 248 for West Virginia. Cincinnati had 279 yards passing, 156 yards for West Virginia. Sorsby was 25 of 36. Nico was 9 of 15, 10.4 yards per pass. Sorsby was 7.8 yards per pass. He was basically dinking and dunking West Virginia today for the most part. And, of course, Nico had that really long touchdown pass, two long touchdown throw, 2 long throws today. I think one was a touchdown, maybe the other one wasn't. Anyway, Nico threw 1 pick, so did Sorsby. Rushing, 92 for West Virginia, not good. That is one of the worst rushing performances I can remember in quite some time for the Mountaineers. 157 yards rushing for Cincinnati. West Virginia only averaged 3.3 yards per carry, 3.7 for Cincinnati. Penalties, West Virginia only penalized 3 times for 15 yards. Cincinnati had 5 penalties for 45 yards. Turnovers, 3 for the Bearcats, 1 for West Virginia. That was the difference in this football game. 3 turnovers. 2 of those turnovers led to 6 points for West Virginia. The pick 6 from Anthony Wilson, and then the scoop and score on the backwards pass by Tyron Bradley. And that was the difference in the game. West Virginia wins by a touchdown. They had 2 defensive touchdowns today. Interceptions thrown, obviously 1 each. In time of possession, 25 minutes for West Virginia, 34 for Cincinnati. I said in my preview show with Jonathan Martin, the Golden Blue Breakdown, West Virginia needed to run the football. They needed to control the clock. They did not do that in this game. So, but it almost cost them. Had it not been for the defense forcing those turnovers, they would have lost this game. So, statistically, Cincinnati won the football game with the exception of the turnovers. Again, they outscored West Virginia. Their offense played better from a yardage, first downs, all that. They played better than West Virginia's offense. This is one of the worst offensive performances I've actually seen out of West Virginia this year. I don't want that to cloud the win because, again, they still have more points on the scoreboard. They moved to 5-4 on the year, 4-2 in conference play. They're still technically in the hunt for a Big 12 championship. So don't want to hide from that. Don't want to gloss over that. But man, the offense did not look good today. Okay. Now let's look at some key individual stats. Nico, 9 of 15, 156 yards. I think I have that scrolling along the screen there. When you look at Cincinnati, he also had 1 touchdown and 1 pick. The pick, somewhat of a fluky pick. The guy juggled it in the end zone, but Nico kind of underthrew the ball a little bit, I think. And then Rodney Gallagher could have probably done a better job of coming back to make a play on that ball. Some of that probably has to go on him. West Virginia rushing the ball. Jaheim White, 13 carries for 64 yards. No touchdowns. His long was 16. I'd like to have seen him got more touches in the game. I felt like he needed more touches. C.J. Donaldson didn't do much at all. 4 carries, 12 yards. And then Nico carried it 9 times for 18 yards and had the rushing touchdown. And then receiving-wise, West Virginia, Justin Robinson, 2 catches for 60 yards and caught the long touchdown from Nico. Traylon Ray had the 1 big catch for 38 yards. Cole Taylor, 5 catches, 30 yards. A good day for him. Jaheim White had the 1 catch out of the backfield on the swing route for 28 yards. And then Tyron Bradley recovered a fumble. KK Tarnu recovered a fumble. Fatorma Mulba and Josiah Trotter both had big days. Fatorma with 13 total tackles. Josiah Trotter with 12 total tackles, and Anthony Wilson with 11 tackles also had the scoop and score. And then Trey Lathan had a sack. Sean Martin had a sack. So good day for those guys. And then when you look at Cincinnati, Sorsby was 25 of 36, pretty high completion percentage there. 279 yards and a touchdown and a pick. Corey Kiner, 25 carries, 91 yards and a touchdown. Evan Pryor, 4 carries, 18 yards. Sorsby had a decent day on the ground, 14 carries for 48 yards and a touchdown. I felt like Sorsby's running made a difference in the second half of the game to get Cincinnati back in the football game. Remember, West Virginia was leading at halftime 17-7, and Cincinnati used Sorsby's legs to get them back in the game in the second half, and West Virginia was struggling to stop it. Receiving, Evan Pryor, who the running back was the leading receiver, 5 catches for 100 yards, had the 1 really long touchdown where West Virginia just completely forgot about him coming out of the backfield, and he was wide open for the long touchdown. Then Xavier Henderson had 8 catches for 68 yards on the day, and then tight end Joe Royer had 4 catches for 31. So he actually didn't have as big a day as Jonathan and myself thought he was going to have, but he did have a pretty decent day. Brendan Sorsby fumbled the ball 2 times. Both of them were recovered by the Mountaineers. One ended up in a 6-point, and I think they actually converted so what Mountaineers forced 3 turnovers, and they scored on all 3 of them, a total of 17 points. Again, there's your game right there. Were it not for those, it would have been a 24-17 football game. So maybe, matter of fact, it probably would have been worse than that because it's probably likely Cincinnati would have scored on 1 or 2 of those drives had West Virginia not turned them over. Again, it's all guessing. But and then defensively, former Mountaineer Jared Bartlett had a big day. 7 total tackles, a sack and a TFL. Obviously, a sack and a TFL are you get a sack, you also get credit for a TFL. But nonetheless, good day for him. The Godfather, Dante Corleone, he had 3 tackles, half a sack, and a half a TFL. So decent day for him. Felt like he did his job helping plug up the middle and stopping that West Virginia run game. But, I mean, let's look at the pocket. Now I'm going to stop for a second and give a shout-out to my other sponsor, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on this game. If you're looking for a new sports book, whether you're looking to make prop bets in-game, before the game, whatever, look at our good friends over at BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino. They have a special right now. If on your first deposit, you use promo code YouTube150 at checkout, you get a 150% sign-up bonus. You also get 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. Again, with promo code YouTube150, 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit. If you do play, please play responsibly and make sure that you're 18 years of age or older. All right. Now, let me give you my thoughts. First, I'm going to look at the good, then I'll look at some of the negatives. Let's go ahead and hit some chats, though, first before we do that. We already have a super chat. We've got Nathan Bounds Thank you for the super chat, my man. He says, good win for 9 lives, Neil. D looked improved. To a degree, they did. One of the things the West Virginia defense had been struggling with all year was forcing turnovers. They did that 3 times today. Now, did that have anything to do with Jeff Couz's coaching? I have no idea. But whatever they did worked. They still gave up too many big plays, or really the one big play, and then they were just kind of allowing Cincinnati to dink and dunk. The strategy I could tell was to make Cincinnati take what you give them, keep everything in front of you for the most part, and then at times Jeff Couz was dialing up some pressure. I was hoping he would be more aggressive in the second half than he was, at least early in the second half. I felt like he was getting too conservative with his play calling, but he did dial up some more pressure later in the game. So I think he was picking his spots. He didn't want to get too overly aggressive, but he did want to get more aggressive than they had been under Leslie, and I think it worked today. I mean, obviously, Brendan Sorsby looked confused at times. Obviously, the 2 fumbles was kind of uncharacteristic. They were not turning the ball over a lot. Now, they had fumbled the ball quite a bit this year, but they weren't throwing picks. They did get the interception, and that was caused by pressure. They got pressure from the backside on a corner blitz. He was trying to get rid of the ball as he was going to the ground and kind of flicked it up. Wilson took advantage of it, caught it, runs it in for a touchdown. Also got pressure to force that last fumble that Sorsby had where Tyron Bradley scooped it up, ran in for a touchdown. And then the other turnover was a run play where Reed Carrico came by and swiped the ball out. I think that was Sorsby as well, if I'm not mistaken, was running the ball. Carrico comes by and swipes at the ball, knocks it out. And I think it was KK Tarnu who actually recovered that one. So yeah, D did look improved in spots, but at times they still looked like they struggled, especially stopping the run. I felt like they didn't do a good enough job stopping the run in this game, which had been West Virginia's strength. So, I guess they decided to stop the pass and give up some yards in the run game. That's kind of the way I took it. All right. Let's see what comments we have from. I was a little late, Kelsey, but again, these post-game deals, you don't know what time the game's going to end exactly. And then it takes a few minutes to set up a stream. You've got to get your graphics ready. You've got to turn your computer on. You got to get your mic and everything, make sure that's on. I know you're not complaining, but I still wanted to kind of let you guys know what, I can't just sit down and hit record. There's some work that has to go into it. But nonetheless, let's see what other comments we got here from. Make sure I hit my comments from my VIP members first. Daniel Gigax in the house says, I'll take the win, 5-4 with Baylor next. Absolutely, Daniel. We'll take it, man. A win is a win, right? That's what they say. And it was over a team that was with a winning record. We cannot let that go. Cincinnati had a better record than West Virginia. Now, they hadn't played the same schedule as West Virginia, but they did have a winning record. They were 5-3 overall, and West Virginia beat them. So I guess we need to give credit where it's due there. Daniel says, I will say the pick 6 and scoop and score was perfect. The ball, you know what? The ball finally bounced West Virginia's way for once. How often do we see the ball never bounce West Virginia's way? It bounced their way today on the turnovers a little bit, and then it was officiating. There were some calls, that I felt, West Virginia, I didn't see West Virginia get, the short end of the stick on a lot of calls today. I felt like calls went their way the way they should. I did see a few times where I thought Cincinnati got away with holding, but, like they say, you could call holding on every play if you wanted to. And then John Waffle, I'm not going to acknowledge that, man. You're just in here to troll. Daniel Gigax says, I can't believe I'm agreeing with at John Waffle H2P. Couz just take the win. Yeah, I didn't mean to be complaining, guys. I've got to look at both sides of it here. Okay. And here lately my mindset has been so negative. I'm struggling not to, I'm looking at the negative first, man, and I can't help it. I'm struggling with that right now. It is a decent win, Dustin. Absolutely. It's a good win. It's a good team win. The defense picked the offense up today. That's what you want. And let's not forget about the special teams. I'm in a group chat with some West Virginia fans, and they were giving Preston Fox some crap today. I'm not sure why. Preston Fox has been a really good punt return for West Virginia. We thought he may have fumbled on that one, but he clearly got ran into on a fair catch, which they ended up calling it, gave West Virginia 15 yards, and obviously kept the ball. Then, he had the long 29-yard punt return, and he catches the ball. How many years, you look at the end of the Dana Holgorsen era, once Tavon Austin and who was the other punt returner they had that was really good? Once they graduated, they struggled to find anybody that could return punts consistently. How many times did we see West Virginia punt returners muff punts over the years? They finally have a guy now who catches the ball consistently and can occasionally even get some yards when he does. And some fans still want to complain. I don't understand it. Preston Fox is a good punt returner. He's not Pac-Man Jones. He's not Tavon Austin, but he at least catches the punts and can do something with it. So let's give him credit where it's due there. And that long return, was good for West Virginia. it really set them up. And if my memory serves me correctly, I think West Virginia scored on that, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But nonetheless, it set them up for good field position. We have WVU fan 13 in the house, says, missed the opening drive. Did we win the coin toss? We actually lost the coin toss today, and Cincinnati chose to defer. So West Virginia still got the ball first, which is what most coaches do, I might add. We have Chester Worrell in the house. Good win. I appreciate every one of them. I'm a fan. Yes, Chester, me too, man. Me too. I still root for my team. I still want them to win games. WVU fan 13 says, can someone help me understand why he takes the ball every game? According to the announcers, Cincinnati won the toss today and deferred, but I do agree with that. I do agree that taking the ball first every game is a mistake. I've talked about it multiple times. Again, WV fan 13 says, this game, it didn't matter. There is a reason why every team in the world defers to the second half. Agreed. Let me see. It doesn't work for them. 9 games, 9 first possessions. We only scored 3 times on opening drives. Great point. Great point. Matt Dix in the house. Thank you, Matt, for joining the show. Chris D says, let's go. Thank you, Chris. Another super chat by Jimmy Touchdown. I love the name, by the way. $5 super chat. Thank you, Jimmy. He says, give Neil Brown an extension. They beat a bad/mediocre Cincy team. You're such a Neil Brown apologist. Brown has destroyed the program irreparably. If you're calling me a Neil Brown apologist, then this must be your first time here, my man, because I have not been a Neil Brown apologist. And they won the game. So I'm gonna call a spade a spade. I'm gonna call negative negative, positive positive. I am going to enjoy the win, but I'm also going to call out, when I see bad things, I'm going to call it out. Thank you, Scott C, for the $4.99 thumbs up. I appreciate you. Chris D says, OMG, we had punt fielding issues like crazy. We did? Oh, yeah. You're talking about early on. Yes. Early in the Brown era and late in the Dana era. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. One person in my chat actually said they think that Preston Fox might be the worst punt returner we've ever had. That is completely inaccurate. I said, whoever you are, you must not have been around early in the Neil era or Dana era, late in the Dana era. PW Riggs, a VIP member in the house, says, I agree. Not sure what you agree with, but thank you for being in here and being a supporter of the show. All right. Sorry. I was reading a couple of comments that kind of threw me off. All right. Now, let me give you my overall thoughts. I'm going to give you the good, and I'm going to give you the bad. Let's start off with the good from this game. West Virginia beat a team who was 5-3. They beat a team with a winning record for the first time this year, okay? Now, they weren't ranked, so he still hasn't been able to check that box, but they do have a winning record. So, Neil Brown beat Cincinnati's not a great team. I'll say they're a good team. They're not really good. They're not great. I'll put them in the good category, slightly above average. West Virginia beats them, despite playing bad offensively. Okay? They found a way to win the game, thanks to the defense and some special teams help. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Oliver Straw today. He punted the ball extremely well, pinned him inside the 20 a couple different times, inside the 10. I know they're on the end. That was a huge, huge boost. Make them go the length of the field. with not a whole lot of time on the clock. That was big. So also, and Michael Hayes made his field goal today and did a good job on kickoff. So I've got to give the special teams a shout out on that. But yeah, thanks to the defense and special teams, West Virginia wins the game. That's a positive, right? We hadn't seen the defense step up and win games for them this year. As a matter of fact, they've actually cost them some games. So it's good to see. Now, did the Jeff Kuntz or the firing of Leslie, the promotion of Kuntz, have anything to do with it? I'd like to think so, because I did see a few things today that I thought was different, but again, I was probably looking for it more today too. So take that into consideration. It looked like they were drawing up blitzes more today from different people. The corner blitzes, some things like that I didn't see. I don't remember seeing Leslie do a whole lot. Again, Coons didn't get crazy with the blitzes. And at times I thought he should have been even more aggressive, especially early in the second half. But he did more blitzing, I thought, than what Leslie used to do. And from, like I said, from different spots on the field. I really like that. The corner blitz, you're always running a risk when you run a corner blitz because you're taking a guy out of coverage, but it worked. All right. And Sorsby looked confused today. I don't think Coons must have done something today defensively that Sorsby wasn't prepared for, because he looked confused early in the game. All right. That's one positive. Another positive, the 2 forced turnovers. The defense, like I mentioned earlier, the defense had not been able to force a lot of turnovers this year. They did it today. They forced 3, scored off. All 3 turned into points. 2 were directly scored by the defense. Now, the flip side of that is you're likely not going to have that happen every game. So you've got to find other ways to win. But today, you need to win. Another positive, West Virginia on the road this year. They have won. See, they lost at Pitt, but they have won at Oklahoma State, at Arizona, and at Cincinnati. Now, you could say that 2 of those 3 teams were bad teams, and some could even say that, some people still are not bought into Cincinnati being a good team, and that's fair. But they still went on the road and won games. So 3 of their 5 wins are on the road. The 2 home wins are against Kansas and Albany. Again, take that for what it's worth. So you go on the road, you get a conference win. You're still technically in the race for the conference championship. If Texas Tech goes out here today, knocks off Colorado, that puts Colorado at 2 losses. You're now sitting there with Colorado, Kansas State, some other teams with 2 losses, right? The way as chaotic as this Big 12 is, man, you never know who's going to knock who off. As long as you keep winning, you keep keeping yourself in the conversation. Remember, I talked about it a couple different times this week on my channel. West Virginia's odds of winning the Big 12 went from plus 10,000 2 weeks ago to plus 3,500 coming into this week. So the odds are improving with every single win, and every time somebody ahead of you gets beat, right? And the way the tiebreakers work, you never know. This Cincinnati win today could come up and to help West Virginia in the tiebreaker. You never know. And if they can go on and beat a team like Texas Tech, who, assuming they beat Colorado today, could end up being ranked, that would be a good win and would also help. But again, I don't want to get too far ahead. So you beat a team with a winning record, you beat them on the road, you keep yourself in the conversation, technically, at least on paper, for the Big 12 title. Now, I don't think any of us believe West Virginia is going to win the Big 12. I don't. I'm sure you all don't. But they're still in the hunt. And again, we remember the 2007 season. Unfortunately, West Virginia was on the wrong side of that one. College football can be crazy. So as long as they're still in the conversation, I'll take it. All right. What other positives can we take away from today? Well, let me see. How about Brandon Yates? I thought Brandon Yates played pretty well today. I was trying to think. There was a player I wanted to mention. It was him. Brandon Yates played pretty well today. He was going up against one of the best nose tackles in the country today. His snaps were back to being good today. I didn't see anything glaring about his snaps being bad or anything like that. And I thought he played pretty well. So got to give Brandon Yates a shout out. Dante Corleone really did not insert himself into that game statistically anyway until late in the game. Now, again, I'm sure he had a hand in plugging up that run game. So, and I'll be anxious to see what Brandon Yates' overall PFF grade is going to be. Maybe he didn't play as well as I thought he did, but just watching it with my eyes, it looked like he did okay, especially considering how good Dante Corleone is. I don't know. That's about all I've got on top of my head. Now, let's look at the negatives. Negatives, the offense looked horrendous today. Nico Marchiol struggled. He looked like he was rushing throws early on. Seemed like he kind of settled in late, but, man, early on in the game, he looked rough. He was missing guys. He was inaccurate. He was overthrowing balls. He was too high on a lot of throws. He looked like he looked like he got happy feet a little bit in the pocket and was maybe not going through his progressions like he should have. Some of his decision-making was questionable. He threw a couple balls into covers that he shouldn't have thrown. So but again, he settled in late and helped him win the game at the end. He did run the ball. He did throw a touchdown and run a touchdown. Got to give him credit for that. Did throw the one pick. It was kind of a fluky deal. So, I'd like to see Nico play better. There was actually a point late in that game when West Virginia was up 3. I think it was 24-21. I thought to myself, man, they need some kind of spark offensively. If Garrett Green is cleared to play, maybe they look to put him in right here and get something going. But then I thought, you know what? It's probably too early for that. If you may only want to do that if Cincinnati pulls ahead of you, and you got to be careful with Nico too that you don't kill his confidence. So again, wasn't real, super pleased with Nico's performance today, but I guarantee you he will be more unhappy about it than anybody. So got to make sure that I'll talk about that. I'm sure the young man, he obviously wants to play well. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think Garrett should have gotten some snaps today, assuming he's cleared? And then also some of the other negatives, obviously the run defense struggled today, gave up 150 yards on the ground. Not the run defense we had been seeing. I'd like for them to clean that up. I saw a few times linebackers over pursue a few times and not get the run fits down where they need to be. Saw that a couple of times. Saw guys overrunning the hole, overrunning the backs when they went to make a tackle. Instead of breaking down to make the tackle, they got juked and over pursued. We're standing straight up instead of breaking down. Just little things like that. All that stuff is fixable. It's all stuff that can happen in the course of a game. But it seemed to happen a little bit too many times for my liking today. And the times that they weren't able to get to Sorsby, he was picking West Virginia apart. Again, it was mostly dink and dunk stuff. But this defense in my opinion, they need to figure out a way where they can play more man coverage. Because right now their zone gets picked apart. Sorry, I'm reading comments. I see some debate going on here about Nico's play. Let me see what Chris D says. Kelsey Nico got a first down and a touchdown on 2 QB draws. Seems okay to me. I think you guys are talking about the play calling. I didn't have too much of an issue with the play calling today. I thought it was okay. WVU fan 13 says, happy for the win. Defense for once won this game. NBA play calling is still horrible. Again, I didn't have much of an issue with it. I felt like he was trying different things. Not a whole lot was working. When your quarterback is not on and not making his throws, it's hard to call anything. You obviously didn't have Garrett there. Nico's a good runner, but he's not a Garrett runner. So you're not going to cause many run plays for him. And also, if Garrett wasn't able to play today, like I mentioned in the Golden Blue Breakdown preview show, how much do you want to run Nico and risk getting him injured and then have to go to your third string guy, right? So I'm sure there was a little bit of caution there as well. But again, the play calling to me was okay. I didn't have too many issues with it. I know a lot of you disagree, but that's the beauty of living in America. We can all disagree. This year in the Big 12 might be the most parity I've seen in the conference, says Chris D. I totally agree with you, man. A lot of parity in this league. All right, here are Cincinnati's wins. Towson, Miami of Ohio, Houston, UCF, and Arizona State. Arizona State's a pretty good team. And Houston has turned out to be a better team than what we envisioned. They're still not great, but they're turning out to be better than we thought. So those are, that Arizona State win's a pretty nice win. They held Arizona State to 14 points. Cincinnati's defense is not terrible, guys. They're not great by any means, and they had been prone to give up some run yards, which that's why I'm shocked that West Virginia was only able to muster 92 yards on the ground. I'm wondering, just talking out loud here, I'm wondering if that was kind of a dumb statement, wasn't it? I'm on a YouTube channel, and I say talking out loud. That's what I'm doing. That's what I do, right? But anyway, I don't know. I don't know if CJ got banged up this week or something. I'm not sure why he didn't get more touches, but when he did get touches, he just didn't do a whole lot with it. I think Cincinnati's game plan appeared to me like they were going to come in and say, okay, we're going to stop the run. We're going to make Nico beat us with his arm, and he wasn't able to do that, really. Yes, West Virginia won the game, but it wasn't because of Nico's arm. It was because of the defense. Nico did have the one touchdown pass and another really nice pass down, like I said, down the field. But overall, his throws were off today. So Cincinnati's game plan would have worked had West Virginia's defense not forced 3 turnovers. Mountaineer guy says if it wasn't for the Cincinnati QB mistakes, WVU would have had a big L. This team isn't exciting anymore. Sorry, but it's true. Neil has taken the excitement out of the sport. I love. And then Shaggy of WV says, I agree 100%, Mountaineer guy. Yeah, I mean, it definitely it's not the most exciting brand of football, especially when the team's playing sloppy like they were today. Shaggy says, I will give you this. This is one of the best wins that MB will have at WVU. I guess on paper, you could say it is one of his best wins. I mean, like I said, they're not ranked. It was a road win against a team with a winning record in conference. So, all those are pluses, but it's still not enough to get us too excited, right? Not enough to get us excited. WV Fan 13 says, are you thinking we should play road games next season? Hey, let's do it, man. Nah, obviously not. Cincy is not a, quote, very good team. If I said they were, I apologize. I didn't. They're a good team. I'll say they're an above average team. Yep, only 9 first downs, Shaggy. Not good, my man. Offense, look, this is one of the worst offensive performances I've seen in a while. But it's a team sport, right? The defense stepped up, made big plays. The special teams played well, so they win. Now, maybe the next game is the opposite. The offense picks up the other 2. Since he lost to Pitt by 1, and the Texas Tech loss is a good loss as well. Very fair, Chris. And just like us, they had Pitt beaten and allowed them to come back. And Pitt is, what, 7-1 now? Shaggy says, you didn't say it, Couz. Someone else said since he was very good. Got it. Yeah, sometimes with these comments, I never know who you guys are talking to, whether you're addressing it to me or somebody else in the chat. So I apologize for, for maybe misinterpreting that. Offensively anemic. Great way to describe it, Jay. Great way to describe it. Great way to describe it. So what does this mean for Neil Brown? Not a thing. I don't think a thing's changed. For me, he could finish this year 8-4. Now, let me back up a minute. There's a chance Texas Tech ends up being ranked when West Virginia plays them at the end of the year in Lubbock. If Texas Tech is ranked, West Virginia goes into that game with a 7-4 record and wins at Lubbock, I might change my mind. But outside of that, right now, there's nothing here to make me confident in Neil Brown, even if they win out, because since they had Cincinnati down by 3 scores and they almost allowed them to come back. Did the same thing against Arizona last game. They allowed Pitt to come back and win. They had to come back to beat Kansas. Now I know that that she was on the other foot there. Got to credit the team for making the comeback, but we found out Kansas is not very good, right? So right now there's just not a lot he can do to get me back on the climb, right? Now, like I said, I withhold the right to change my mind on that. But as of right now, there's nothing because and again, I've heard people say, well, they just don't have enough talent on the team. Well, at the end of the day, who recruits the players? The coaching staff, right? If it's lack of talent, I still put it on the coach. Recruiting is half the job, at least half the job, if not more. So if the players you're recruiting don't perform and they're not talented enough to perform at that level, then you recruited the wrong guys. I don't necessarily think it's a talent issue, at least not at every position. I think it is at some positions, but not every position. So I'm still, to me, I'm still not 100. I'm still not confident in Neil Brown. So whoever that guy was earlier, I do thank him for the super chat, but I'm not a Neil Brown apologist by any means. But they did win today, and I don't want to be overly negative after they win a football game. Still a lot of things to clean up. I'm sure they'll go back to the drawing board, go back to work, go back to practice, work on the things that they need to clean up. Nico needs to settle down in the pocket a little bit. He probably, the offensive line didn't block great today for him either. I want to throw that out there. They could have played better overall as a unit. A couple times he didn't have time to throw the ball, and then there were times he did have time, and there was nowhere to go with it. The receivers weren't able to get open. Hudson Clement was hurt today; he didn't play. I'm sure that didn't help when your number one receiver is out. So there were some other things that went into this. So, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel like the offense obviously didn't play well. Nico didn't play very well. The running game was terrible. But the defense stepped up today, forced 3 turnovers. And look, if the defense is playing bad statistically and they're struggling to stop people, how do you overcome that? How do you offset that? You force turnovers, and the defense did that today. There were a lot of years or a few years anyway, under Tony Gibson's defenses where they could force a lot of turnovers. They might give up a lot of yards, might even give up a lot of touchdowns, but they could force turnovers. They would get interceptions. They would knock the ball out. That really helps a defense, even if they struggle to stop people, man. If you can steal 2 or 3 possessions a game away from the other team, I don't want to say 3 a game, but if you can steal a couple possessions a game away from the other team, man, that is huge. That is absolutely huge. Not only does it put your offense, which in this case was struggling, in a better position to succeed, you keep their offense off the field. So there's just so many advantages. And momentum, we all seen momentum shifts in this game today. Momentum is amazing in football. So momentum can make a huge difference in a game. Yes, everybody please hit the thumbs up button. Thank you, Chris. Momentum was so huge in a game. And I like to call it Mo. It was so big today in this game. Back and forth, back and forth. So how do you get momentum? One way to do that, get an interception, get a fumble recovery. All of those are huge momentum swings in a game. So if this defense can continue to force turnovers like this, the chances of them winning these next 3 games go up tremendously. So hopefully they can. Even if they struggle to stop people at times, if they can force 2-3 turnovers, they're going to win some more of these games here. What's Kelsey saying? You guys are still arguing about. The poll we're referring to, Kelsey, at least me, is the AP poll. He hasn't been in the AP poll since he arrived, and that's just not acceptable for me. Now we got Ferris in the house. What's up, Ferris? We got Luke Armacost in the house. Chris D says they have the talent. Yeah, I mean, at certain spots definitely, but there are a few position groups I question whether the talent is what they thought it was going to be, that I think they might have maybe misevaluated. Shaggy says, has this team improved any at all? I don't think so. Well, hard to say. Man, that's a great question. Very little. I'm sure if you wanted to sit down and really study it, and obviously I don't have film to watch, but I'm sure if you sit down and study film and look at, the all 22 film where you can see the whole field, you could probably point out some things that we don't see as fans watching the television set or watching it from the stadium. But watching it as a fan on TV, it doesn't look like they've improved a whole lot. No. Nico is not the savior of WVU football. No, he is not. At least not today. Look, it's one game though. I don't want to throw Nico out. Don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. I don't want to throw Nico outside, out in the street, throw him away just because of one bad game. But he does have to play better, no doubt about it. And I'm sure he would tell you the same thing. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on. That really makes Neil Brown's job interesting now, because let's say Garrett comes back and is fully healthy next week. What do you do? We thought Nico was the answer after last week. Turns out maybe it was just a bad Arizona defense, because look what happened to them the following week. They allowed 56 points to UCF. Maybe Garrett wasn't the issue. I don't know. Obviously, he wasn't playing great either. But I don't know, man. I think today Garrett's running would have really helped that offense I think he could have given that offense a spark today with his legs. Not that Nico can't run it, but he's not Garrett running it, Brandon says Kansas is up over Iowa State, and that's, again, we really need that to happen. We need Kansas to beat Iowa State. We need Texas Tech to beat Colorado. This is a crazy conference, guys. Crazy conference. So anything can happen. Sorry about that. Accidentally hit a wrong button or something. He did throw some beautiful deep balls, Chris. He did throw some beautiful deep balls, but he also overthrew some guys. And like I said, I'm not throwing Nico away at all. And there may have been some things. Again, his number one receiver was out today. The running game, they couldn't get the running game going, which as we all know, helps that passing game. I didn't think the offensive line blocked as well for him today as they had in the past. And what was the other one? Oh, the receivers struggled to get open, I thought, at times. So it wasn't all on Nico. Absolutely not all on Nico. Some of you have mentioned the play calling, and that's fair to question. Maybe the play calling wasn't the greatest. Like I said, I didn't really have an issue with it, but some do. But at the end of the day, great quarterbacks play like great quarterbacks. I still think Nico can be a great quarterback, but he didn't play great today. So I've got to call a spade there. Again, am I saying get rid of the kid or throw him out to dry? No, but he didn't play well today. Chris says he's feeling more optimistic than normal. That's okay, man. I'm glad, because I need people like you to balance me out, because for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I haven't felt optimistic at all, even after winning games. Shaggy of WV says, imagine being 6 seasons in your WVU coaching career and you haven't been ranked once. Look, guys, I love the debate. As long as you guys keep it respectful. I love the debate in the chat. Keep it up. It's interesting. I find it to be an interesting conversation. You guys know how I stand, I think. I'm not sold on Neil Brown being the guy, but I'm also a realist and understand West Virginia is in a pickle financially right now, and I'm not sure they can afford to do anything about it. So whether we like it or not, he's likely going to be back for next year, barring some kind of collapse. If they finish the season, if they win one of these next 3 games and finish with bowl eligibility, I don't think he's going anywhere. Oh, yeah, Big E, that's a good point. I meant to bring that up earlier, and I didn't. Big E 7375 says, what I liked was we made changes on the fly on defense. Haven't seen that since 2020. They did make changes on the fly today, and I liked it. Now, Cincinnati was able to make changes too. You could kind of see the chess match going on between – some of that had to do with momentum, but you could also see a little bit of a chess match between Cincinnati offensive play caller, which I think is Satterfield, and Jeff Couz, right? And let's face it, Satterfield is a much more veteran, much more experienced at calling plays than what Jeff Couz is. So I think I've got to give Couz a little credit here on being able to match to that, or at least hold water against a very veteran play caller in Scott Satterfield. Kelsey Whitlack, I think I saw it. Couz, I have a question for you. If it meant Nico left because Brown's not coaching, do you still want him out? At this point, Kelsey, I am not ready. I don't think you can sacrifice the future of a program for one player. It's a fair question, and it's definitely something that would make me pause probably. But just to be perfectly 100% frank, Nico has not looked good enough for me to say, well, we've got to do everything to keep this young man. He hasn't shown me that yet. Now, he's had some flashes of it. He's thrown some great balls, but he's also at times looked like he's not the guy. So Nico so far is not one of those guys you say, okay, we've got to do everything we can to keep this guy, even if it means keeping the coaching staff or whatever intact. He's not that good, at least not yet. Does he have the potential to be? Yes. Does he have the skill set to be? I think yes. But as of right now, I don't think he's there. Now, is it his fault? I don't know. Maybe some of that falls on the coaching staff again. Have we really seen quarterbacks develop really well under this staff? It's a fair question. We've actually seen some regression in some quarterbacks. Now, some of that is probably injury related. In the case of Garrett, potentially. But, we saw Jarrett Doege regress his senior year. We saw JT Daniels regress throughout a season. We've seen Garrett regress a little bit. Have we really seen a quarterback progress and get to a really high level of play under Neil Brown's tutelage at West Virginia? I don't think we have. Nico's a 4-star recruit. He's got so he apparently has the tools there. So what is it? I don't know what gives, man. Again, I'm not saying it is the coaches, but I think it's a fair question to ask as to why have we not seen a quarterback reach their level of potential under this staff? All right. Kelsey says, what about half or more of the starters leave? Still new coach? You said one player. What about a bunch? It doesn't matter, man. Look, West Virginia is already going to be losing almost their entire starting offensive line. Tomas Rimac still has eligibility, but he also is eligible to try out to go to the NFL, and he could do that. He may be good enough to do that. So there's a chance West Virginia loses their entire starting offensive line and entire starting defensive line next year. They obviously lose Garrett Green. They lose Aubrey Burks, who's, unfortunately been injured most of the year. So is there really enough pieces coming back? Have we seen enough out of the guys coming back to make us go, wait a minute, we cannot change coaches because we'll lose? Who on the team is good enough to make you sit back and go, oh, these players are so good? Because here's what happens. If you get the right coach in place and you do it quick enough, you get the right coach in place, maybe they come in and are able to retain most of the players because of their culture, the way they make them feel comfortable. 2, maybe it's a coach that really gets the fan base excited, really gets the donors excited, and they throw a lot of NIL money all of a sudden into the coffers to not only retain the players you have, but to go out into the portal and get some absolute studs. That's what they need to do. And I don't think right now that 2 reasons I don't think West Virginia is going to be able to go get studs out of the portal. Number 1, I don't think Neil Brown and his staff have shown the ability to do it. Okay. With a few exceptions, obviously. Obviously, TJ Jackson is an exception. Let me take it back. They've done a pretty darn good job on getting portal guys. Cole Taylor's been good. That was probably an inaccurate statement by me. The one position they haven't been able to get good players is, in my opinion, good enough players outside of B.D. Bishop, obviously, is the secondary. What has happened to the secondary? Now, Garnett Hollis played pretty good today, I felt. And maybe now he'll start playing better now that Jordan – maybe he wasn't being put in the right positions to succeed, because I think Garnett Hollis is a good football player. So, maybe he's an exception to that as well. I don't know, but we've seen a lot of misses on the back end with transfers under this staff, going all the way back to 2021-ish, I think, or 22. And anyway, we've seen a lot of misses. So do they have the ability to go out and get those kind of guys? But if you get, I also think there's such apathy right now and so much frustration within the fan base, and even maybe with some of the donors, that they might not give Neil Brown a whole lot of NIL money right now, because they don't want to invest money in a program where they don't feel like they're getting a return on their investment. It may be one of the reasons West Virginia's not doing great in NIL right now. They're near the bottom of the conference. If you bring in a coach who moves the needle and who can get the donors excited and get the fan base excited, that NIL money could shoot up, and you might be able to get better. Not only retain the players like you talk about, Kelsey, not only retain the players you want to retain, but go out in the portal and get some studs, get some dogs, bring them in. That's my feelings on it. I think there's so much apathy with Neil Brown right now that the donors are checking out, man. I'm afraid that's going to happen. And if that happens, it's going to be even harder for him to win. So why not just start over from scratch going into next year? Again, my opinion may change on that if they win out and finish 8-4, end up ranked, whatever. Maybe I change my mind on that. But as of right now, based on what I've seen, if you clean house, you start over with a brand new staff, and maybe even, look at the basketball program. I mean, I know it's only 2 games in, but so far they look better, right? Look what Kurt Cignetti's doing in Indiana. They're undefeated, right? Indiana, man, is undefeated. Now they haven't played a great schedule, but it's Indiana. Let's be honest. If you can get some dogs from the portal, maybe you can win with it. Yeah, Chris, I actually saw that video. Great point. He says Country Roads Webcast actually made a video about the QB regression. Great video, by the way. I recommend going to watch it. Jordan and the guys over there do a great job. WVU Fan 13 says Neil doesn't know how to develop and use the talent he has, and that is a fair critique. WVU Fan 13, I don't necessarily agree with that statement. We could get worse. We're 5-4, not 1-8. You know what I mean? So it could be worse. It could definitely be worse. And Kelsey says thinking a new coach is going to raise a bunch of NIL money is fool's gold in my opinion. And that's fair. I think it depends on who that coach is. Honestly. How was Dana a worse coach than Neil, Kelsey? He won. He was ranked in the AP top 25 every single year, except one. They were in the conversation for the Big 12 championship multiple seasons, had one 10-win season. I don't see it. And look at the number of players Dana put in the league, man. Dana put a lot of players in the NFL. We can say all the negative things we want to about Dana Holgorsen, but he put players in the league. Almost every player in the NFL right now from West Virginia played under Dana Holgorsen for a majority of their career. Zach Frazier's an exception. Beanie Bishop obviously an exception. Heck, he played most of his career at other schools. Dante Steele is an exception. He did play under Dana, but he played most of his career under Neil. So I give Neil credit for Dante Steele. I give him credit for Zach Frazier, and I give him a small amount of credit for Beanie Bishop. Outside of that, who'd he put in the league? Well, you could say Bryce Ford Wheaton, maybe. He put Bryce Ford Wheaton there. I'll give him credit for that one, because he is in the league with the Giants right now. But outside of that, who in the NFL was coached by Neil Brown? A lot of them were coached by Dana, though. Yep, I agree, Chris. Look, I don't think Dana's the greatest coach we've ever had by any means. But if you look at his win percentage, he was right there with Don Nehlen, man. It was a much shorter sample size. I get it, but his winning percentage was between 60 and 65%. If I recall, might have even been higher than that. Six seasons, 3 games above 500. Reality. Yep, that's true. Look, I've said I like to see coaching change, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to cheer for my team to win games. I do not want this team to lose games. What my ultimate wish down deep, I would love for this team to win out, finish 8-4, go to a bowl, win another bowl game, finish the season 9-4, just like last year. Come back next year with in that scenario, we know they're going to bring Neil back, right? Neil come back next year, absolutely go out win 9 or 10 football games, and prove us all wrong. I just have very little confidence that's going to happen. That's the problem. All right. I love the conversation, y'all. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Again, shout out to my sponsors, Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner Attorneys at Law, your personal injury medical malpractice attorneys in West Virginia and Virginia. If you need them, their services, check them out at 304-999-HURT or at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. Mountaineer Faithful, thank you for watching on X. Says, regardless of thoughts on coach or future, it was a great weekend to be a Mountaineer. 2-0. Absolutely. And the women right now, from what somebody put in the comments, are absolutely dominating their game by like 60 points. So could be 3-0 here very, very shortly. And by the way, y'all, I'm now over the Hoops from the Hills basketball channel. If you guys want to check it out, I have 2 other creators over there doing some shows for me as well. Shauna Rose, who's a writer for me over at Couz'sCorner.com, and then Zach Siegel, who also does some writing for me. They're each hosting their own show. Both of them are new at YouTube, so cut them some slack, but please go support them over there. But they're both doing a show. Shauna's called the Hoops Country Show, and then Zach's doing the A to Z Poll show. And then I'm obviously going to be doing some shows as well when I have time. Yeah, Ren has no money. That's a great point. It's a great point. WVU women's won their game 110-41. Holy cow. 110-41, y'all. I'm putting that up on the screen. Shout out to the West Virginia women's team, man. Great job, ladies. I wish I could have watched it. I'm looking forward to watching some of their games this year. All right. All right, listen, I'm going to check, make sure there's no super chats I'm missing here. I don't see any. Chris D, great point about Dana. He says Dana had some big moments that made you feel good about the program. Orange Bowl win versus number 4 Baylor, 10-win 2016, 2018 hype. Absolutely. We've not had that under Neil Brown. The only hype I've ever had under Neil Brown was coming into this year, and it blew up in my face. Now, there was a little bit of hype, I guess you could say, after last year going into the bowl game and then the bowl win. But you basically, if you take into last year, first of this year, kind of all ties in together. I think the fan base felt really good about themselves, but very good about the program. And then, boom, you go out against Penn State, look absolutely terrible. Allow Pitt to come back and beat you at the end. Win ugly against Kansas. Win ugly. You dominate Oklahoma State, who's ended up being a horrible team. Dominate, barely beat Arizona, who's a bad team. So it's just hard to get excited about it. But yeah, Dana, man, I mean, remember the game against Texas in 2018? Remember that moment? You mentioned the win over number 4 Baylor, the 10-win season in 2016, I believe it was. And they were were 1 win away from playing in the Big 12 title game in 2018. Now they choked 2 games in a row away, unfortunately. But when have we had that kind of hype and that excitement with Neil Brown? We haven't, other than, like I said, the very short period of time between the end of last year and this year. That is not true, man. He had a 10-win season in 2016 with Skylar Howard, Shelton Gibson, and that crew. He won 10 football games, and that was with Texas and Oklahoma in the league. Now, Oklahoma beat them that year, but Dana didn't usually get blown out by Oklahoma. He usually played them tight, played them tough. Now, in Neal's defense, he did play them tight a couple years ago in Norman when it was, remember that game where West Virginia was driving to potentially take the lead and had a bad snap. So, but for the most part, Neal has gotten blown out in those types of games with a couple of exceptions. My hopes for the B-ball team are cautiously optimistic. Shaggy, I'm expecting them to win. We got to. I don't think you need to look at how tough the Big 12 is, man, and look at their Big 12 schedule. They play like the top five of the top teams in the league, or three of the top teams in the league in their first 5 games of the Big 12 schedule. So I'm expecting them to win about 15 or 16 ball games. Now, they could do better than that, but that's about my expectations. But they're fun to watch, man. Are they not? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch last night's game because I was at a local high school game. By the way, let me tell you all about this real quick. Princeton High School here in southern West Virginia. That's where my kids go. They were 9-0 going into the game, a chance to have their very first undefeated regular season in school history, right? They're ranked second in the state in their class. They're losing. It was 41-25, I believe. No, yeah, 41-25. They were winning 41-25, or no, see. Anyway, I think it was 41-25, something like that. Going into the at one point in the fourth quarter. They end up Parkersburg South they end up coming back. There's like 20 seconds on the clock, or actually, I think there was 5 seconds on the clock. It's 47-41, Parkersburg South. Princeton throws up a Hail Mary into the end zone. It looks like the offensive player's coming down with the ball, right, from where we were sitting. It was such a mess, the referees didn't know what to call because the offense and defense both had their hands on the ball. It looked almost kind of reminded you of the Virginia Tech-Miami game from a few weeks back. But the Princeton player, who was a P4 recruit committed to Penn State, by the way, was so strong, he was able to take the ball out of the air, or take the ball out of the Parkersburg South player's hands and come away with the football. Referees call it a touchdown for Princeton. Amazing play. And then obviously they come on. It was 47-47. Young man comes up, no pressure on you. It just might be the biggest extra point in Princeton football history. He makes it. Princeton wins the game 48-47 with no time on the clock. Huge moment for our school, for our team. So very exciting time last night watching the Tigers play. But anyway, but unfortunately it overlapped with the women's game. The men's basketball game. So I wasn't able to watch it. And I know most of y'all probably did not care about that, but I wanted to brag a little bit about my my team. I am not watching it yet, Jesse, but I plan to do that as soon as we're done here, which is going to be right now. Again, shout out to my 2 sponsors, Cats, Kennerstone Street and Buckner, and BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino. Thanks to all of you for tuning into this live show post-game reaction. Couldn't do it without you guys. And if you're watching on X, by the way, please go to my YouTube channel after we're done here. Check out my past videos, the ones I've done that my either past live streams that you haven't seen or my on-demand videos. Please go check it out. Please subscribe to my channel and watch some of my past stuff. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I really appreciate everybody's support, everybody tuning into the show. I hope the rest of your Saturday and the rest of your weekend and the rest of your day, whenever you're watching this, I hope it's top shelf. And don't forget, Q Country Roads.